Hey friends, got a minute? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe. It's quick for you, but means the world to me. All right, let's dive in. I'm Rachel Monroe, 28, and according to my family, I've recently committed the ultimate act of selfishness. My crime? Owning a house and daring to keep it for myself. It's a modest place in the suburbs of Seattle. 4 bedrooms, sunlight in the mornings, a backyard I've poured my soul into, roses, lavender, a little gazebo that I built from a kit during the pandemic. Every inch of this house represents something I worked for. I lived on instant noodles in college, split rent with 4 roommates after graduation, and said no to every vacation invite for years. 3 years ago, my grandmother, Margaret Monroe, or Grandma Margaret, as everyone calls her, helped me with the down payment. But it wasn't a gift. She drew up a formal loan agreement with interest, notarized, and everything. "You'll never value what you don't earn, Rachel," she'd said, pen in hand. That's always been her philosophy. Work for what you want. So, yeah, I've been working, saving, and slowly building my version of peace. My younger brother, Ethan, is 25, the family golden boy, charming, funny, and utterly allergic to responsibility. For years, while I was working full-time and paying down student loans, Ethan was finding himself. First as a music major, then business, then philosophy, then marketing. He finally graduated last year, now working part-time at a digital agency while living rent-free with my parents. A few months ago, he proposed to his girlfriend, Ashley. She's sweet, grounded, polite, the kind of woman who sends thank you cards after dinner. When I met her, I thought maybe she'd be the anchor Ethan needed. Then came the dinner. Mom texted the invite like it was nothing. Family dinner Sunday night. Big announcement. That should have been my first red flag. Mom only calls family dinners when she's plotting something. I showed up with dessert, thinking maybe someone was pregnant. The mood was suspiciously formal. Candles, grandma's china, everyone seated before I arrived. Halfway through dessert, Mom clasped her hands. That smile, the one she uses right before volunteering someone for unpaid labor. "So, Rachel," she began lightly, "Ethan and Ashley have been looking at wedding venues. It's just ridiculous how expensive they are these days." I smiled, chewing pie. "Yeah, the industry's crazy right now." Ethan leaned forward, eyes bright. "That's actually what we wanted to talk about. Your backyard would be perfect for our wedding." I froze. "You want to have your wedding here?" Ashley blushed. "It would save us nearly $15,000. "50s," I nearly choked. "What kind of venues are you looking at?" Mom waved a dismissive hand. "Don't be dramatic. The point is, family helps family, and your yard is just sitting there." "It's not just sitting there," I said. "I use it. I maintain it. It's my space." Dad chimed in, calm but stern. "Rachel, don't be selfish. It's one day. You'll survive it." I laughed, trying to sound casual. 150 guests stomping through my garden is not one day. Mom's tone sharpened. "Rachel Monroe, your brother is only getting married once. The least you could do is offer your support. After everything this family has done for you." "Done for me?" My voice cracked. "I paid for college myself. I've been working since I was 16. I pay Grandma back every single month for that house loan." Mom sniffed. "You wouldn't even have that house without family help." "It was a loan, Mom, with interest." The conversation spiraled. Guilt from one end, pressure from the other. Every logical argument I offered, insurance, permits, parking, liability, got waved away. "Don't be so dramatic," Dad said. "Ethan said he'd handle everything," Mom added. Ethan just smiled, nodding along. "Of course, we'll take care of it all. You won't even notice we were there." Ashley's eyes flickered. Guilt, hesitation, but she said nothing. I stared at my plate, surrounded by disappointed faces. Finally, I sighed. "Fine. But I need everything in writing. Insurance, contracts, setup agreements, everything." Ethan's grin was instant. Too instant. "Deal," he said. Mom beamed like she'd just negotiated world peace. Dad nodded approvingly. Ashley smiled faintly, but wouldn't meet my eyes. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, not a single document. What I have gotten are unannounced visits. Ethan shows up with Ashley and her parents to measure things. Her mother, Patricia, has walked through my house, not just the yard, murmuring things like, "It's such a charming starter home for a young couple." Starter home. Every time I remind myself to breathe, to not explode, but the anxiety keeps building. Yesterday, I came home early with a migraine and found all of them in my living room. Ethan, Ashley, her parents, and mine. Notebooks open, discussing logistics. "What's going on?" I asked. Mom jumped up. "Oh, Rachel, we're just going over a few wedding details." "What kind of details?" Ethan cleared his throat. "Well, after the wedding, we're going to need some time to save up for a place." My stomach dropped. "Okay, and?" He gestured around the room. "You have all this space." "No," I said instantly. Dad frowned. "You haven't even heard the proposal." "I don't need to." Patricia smiled condescendingly. "Surely you're not going to make newlyweds struggle when you have spare rooms." "They're not spare," I snapped. "One's my office, one's my gym, one's a guest room, 4 guests." "Your friends can stay in hotels," Mom said, dismissing me with a flick of her wrist. "So can newlyweds," I shot back. Ethan's face flushed red. "This is typical Rachel. Always so self-centered. You think you're better than everyone." "Because I don't want you living here rent-free indefinitely?" "It wouldn't be indefinite," he snapped. "Just until we save enough." "How much are you saving each month?" I asked. Silence. "What's your timeline?" More silence. "Your budget?" Ashley finally whispered, "We thought family would understand." "Understand what?" I demanded. "That you're planning a wedding you can't afford and counting on me to bail you out?" Patricia gasped. "Young people have it harder these days, Rachel." "I'm 3 years older than Ethan," I said. "We're the same generation." The argument exploded. Mom cried. Dad accused me of ruining family harmony. Ethan stormed out, Ashley trailing behind him with tears in her eyes. When the door slammed, the silence felt heavy, like the walls themselves were judging me. That night, I sat in my gazebo, staring at the garden lights I'd strung up myself. For the first time, my home didn't feel peaceful. It felt fragile, like it was one conversation away from no longer being mine. And deep down, I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The morning after the living room blow-up, my phone began its performance, buzz, 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 like a mechanical woodpecker carving holes into my sanity. "Mom, family isn't a transaction, Rachel. You're turning it into paperwork." Dad, Proverbs 11:25. A generous person will prosper. Aunt Carol, we're all so proud you're hosting the wedding. Uncle Dan, heard you're opening your home to the newlyweds. That's what real family looks like. Unknown number. Hi, Patricia here. Ashley's mom. Quick cue. Where do you keep the breakers? We'll need power for the uplights. I put my phone face down and stared at my coffee until the sheen of oil on top looked like a tiny storm cloud. I'd said yes to a backyard wedding, with very clear conditions, but somewhere between dessert and dawn, my yes with contracts and insurance had been translated into yes plus permanent access. I called Caleb Hart, my boyfriend, because if there's anything more humbling than family politics, it's asking for help when your pride is blistered raw. "Talk to me," he said, voice low with that steady warmth I loved. I gave him the short version. He listened without interrupting, which is how I knew he was worried. "Okay," Caleb said finally. "You need paper, email, a boundary in black and white. Send a note today saying you're happy to host the wedding contingent on proof of insurance, rental contracts, a security deposit for property damage, and a headcount cap. Otherwise, the offer is off the table." I already said that at dinner. "Dinner is air. Send it in writing." I typed the email with my hands shaking, then reread it until it sounded sterile and unassailable. "Hi all. Confirming I'm willing to host the ceremony in the backyard only if I receive 1. Event insurance naming me as additional insured. 2. All vendor contracts, tents, chairs, portable restrooms, parking plan. 3. A security deposit of $2,000 against damages. 4. Head count capped at 80. 5. No access to the interior of the house on wedding day. If I don't have the documents by Friday, I'll assume you've chosen another venue. Rachel." I hit send. My heart raced as though I'd told a lie, even though every word was the truth. 10 minutes later, Mom called. "What is this email?" "A boundary. You're embarrassing your brother. Deposits, caps, portable restrooms. We have bathrooms." "My bathrooms," I said, calm I did not feel. "Wedding is outside. The house is not a venue." She sighed the way people sigh when they think you are exhausting on purpose. "You've changed, Rachel." "I paid for change monthly with interest," I replied, and hung up before I could apologize for the audacity of adulthood. By afternoon, the campaign escalated. A cousin posted a photo of my backyard with the caption, "Can't wait for the big day." I hadn't given anyone permission to share images of my property. My HOA president texted asking whether I'd obtained an event permit. Ashley's mother, Patricia, left a voicemail about how charming my spare rooms were and how she had a line on a gently used crib for when the time comes. When the time comes? I walked outside and gripped the gazebo railing until the wood pressed grooves into my palms. My roses stirred in a wind that didn't cool me at all. At 5 p.m., Ethan showed up. No text, no knock, just the squeal of my gate and his voice in the yard. Rach! I met him on the patio. Call first. He flopped into a chair like a sunburned Labrador. Look, you're overreacting. You send this corporate email and freak everyone out. It's not corporate, it's adulthood. We'll get you paperwork. But the deposit? That's insulting. You think I'm going to trash your place? I said nothing. He read the answer on my face. He looked away, jaw tight. Anyway, you can relax about us staying here. It'd be temporary. How temporary? Couple months. How many is couple in Ethan math? He didn't answer. Instead, he glanced at the windows. Ashley's mom had good ideas. If we knock down your hall closet, we could put our dresser in. No, I said, and the word rang clean like a bell. You don't redesign a house you don't live in. He laughed, light and careless. You're so dramatic. Get me the insurance, Ethan, or there's no wedding here. He stood, his smile vanishing. You always think you're better. I think I'm the person paying the mortgage. He left. The gate squealed again, long, irritated, like it resented being complicit. That night, Caleb came over with takeout and a lockbox. We're changing your door codes, he said, already kneeling by the keypad, and add a camera on the side yard. I shouldn't have to do this, I whispered, for my own family. He set down the screwdriver and touched my shoulder. You also shouldn't have to defend the perimeter of your piece. But here we are. The new code clicked into place with a chirp that felt both petty and holy. Thursday arrived with a group text from Dad. Family meeting Sunday. No drama. We'll work it out like adults. Like adults turned out to mean I listened while everyone else talked at me. They had a caterer now, a DJ, a friend who could totally do flowers if I covered the cost of refrigeration. Your garage is perfect for that. As they spoke, I saw my quiet home shape-shifting into a communal project. My savings account becoming a faucet everyone felt entitled to open. When I repeated my conditions, Mom said, "It's humiliating that you don't trust your own family." Patricia nodded sympathetically. At Mom, Ashley bit her lip and said nothing. Ethan scrolled his phone. Timeline, I said. Insurance by tomorrow. Contracts by Monday. Otherwise, choose another venue. Ethan looked up, eyes cold. You'd really make us homeless for our wedding week? You have a home, I said, with Mom and Dad. That's not the same. You're right, I said. Their house is theirs. Mine is mine. The meeting broke up without a resolution, which meant I'd made one. No paperwork, no wedding. I wrote it on a sticky note and stuck it to my fridge. A neon reminder that a promise without boundaries is just a crater waiting to be filled with other people's expectations. Friday came. No insurance, no contracts. A new text, though, from Ashley. I'm sorry about yesterday. I stared at the blinking cursor, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I typed, "Thank you. I know you're in a tough spot." Then deleted it. Then typed it again and sent it. It felt like tossing a rope across a widening ravine. That night, I found Ashley and Patricia standing in my living room. I didn't scream, which is my single greatest act of restraint to date. How did you get in? Patricia lifted my old spare key from the console where Mom has kept a set since I moved in. Your mother told me where you keep this. We wanted to double-check wall space for photos. You don't have access to my interior, I said, blood roaring in my ears. Ever. Ashley's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I told her we should wait. You told her or you asked her, I said softly. Ashley flinched, like I'd flicked off the lights. Don't be rude, Patricia snapped. Families share. That's how it works. Once Ethan and Ashley move in, out, I said. What? Out of my house, right now. Patricia laughed, but it was the brittle laugh of someone unused to being told no. Ashley muttered another apology and followed her mother out. The door shut. I leaned against it and felt my pulse in my teeth. I texted Mom, "Spare key is revoked. Please do not give anyone access to my home, ever." She replied, "Wow, you've become so cold." I put the spare key in Caleb's lockbox and changed the code again. Sleep didn't come. I sat in the gazebo, listening to the wind comb through the hydrangeas, and tried to picture my brother as a husband, as a man with a lease and a set of his own keys. The image wouldn't focus. All I could see were lists, insurance, tents, chairs, parking, bathrooms, the unglamorous bones beneath a party, the things you don't notice when you assume someone else is paying. Just after midnight, my phone lit up with a new text from an unknown number. Rachel, it's Margaret. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. at my house. Bring your laptop and every message about this wedding. Grandma. I stared at her name, a small lighthouse on my screen. Caleb, half asleep on the couch, cracked one eye. Everything okay? My grandmother just summoned me. Is that bad? I thought of her tidy Victorian, the legal pads, the way her eyes sharpen when someone mistakes kindness for weakness. I thought of the line she'd made me write on the memo line of my loan checks. Home earned. It's decisive, I said. He squeezed my hand. Then go get decisive. I lay awake until dawn, the garden lights winking out one by one. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and went quiet. A crow dropped onto the fence and watched me like a judge with a black robe of feathers. By morning, the family group chat had resurrected, full of noise about napkin colors and playlist vetoes. No one mentioned insurance. No one mentioned keys. The storm moved as if I hadn't planted a single sandbag. At 1:40 p.m., I backed out of my driveway. In the rear view, my house sat square and quiet, my gazebo a small white vow against the sky. I touched the steering wheel and whispered a promise I hoped I could keep. This home is mine, and it will stay that way. I turned onto Grandma's street. Grandma Margaret's Victorian looked exactly as I remembered. Sharp white trim, rose bushes lined like soldiers, the kind of yard that told you boundaries were sacred here. I parked at the curb, my heart thudding harder than it should have. Through the window, I saw her, hair perfectly set, glasses halfway down her nose, a teacup in one hand, a thick manila folder in the other. That folder had history. You never wanted your name in it. Come in, Rachel, she called before I even knocked. Her living room smelled like lemon polish and peppermint tea. The good china was out, never a casual sign. I sat where she pointed, laptop balanced on my knees. She didn't waste time. I hear Ethan's planning to move into your house after the wedding. My throat tightened. You heard that? Her eyes flicked up, unimpressed. I have a bridge club, dear. The Henderson's Pilates instructor is quite chatty. I groaned softly. So the whole city knows? She sipped her tea. Possibly, but more importantly, I know, and I want to see what kind of trouble my family's cooking up this time. I showed her the texts, the emails, the group chat screenshots. Her expression didn't change. The more she read, the quieter she became, that terrifying calm of a woman calculating consequences. When she finished, she set the papers down, took off her glasses, and looked at me like a general addressing a soldier. Do you know why I helped you with that down payment, Rachel? Because I had a job? Good credit? Partially, but mostly because you earned it. You work, you save, you keep your promises. Ethan. She sighed. Ethan's been raised on rescuing. Your parents call it love. I call it enabling. I stayed quiet. She wasn't wrong. I'm 82, Rachel, she continued. I don't have patience for nonsense anymore, so here's what's going to happen. She reached into the manila folder and pulled out a document I recognized, her will. Grandma, quiet, this is relevant. She flipped to a marked page. I've left equal inheritance to each grandchild, but with conditions. Employment, savings, independence. Ethan's already failing 2 of the 3. Grandma, you can't control people's lives through a will. Her lips curved. Of course I can. That's what wills are for. She turned another page. And since your mother and father seem determined to turn your house into a hostel, they'll need a little incentive to stop. I blinked. Incentive? Anyone who enables Ethan's dependency forfeits 20% of their inheritance. Grandma! I said quiet. She set the papers aside. I didn't spend 40 years saving money just to watch it fund entitlement. I've worked. I've invested. I've sacrificed. This family needs a reality check, and I'm going to deliver it. My stomach twisted. You're planning a confrontation, aren't you? Her smile was razor thin. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., my house. Everyone attends, or they can consider themselves disinherited. Grandma, that'll just... Rachel, she leaned forward, eyes blazing. Do you want peace, or do you want to keep dancing around your brother's tantrums? I hesitated. Peace. Then we do it my way. She stood, walked to her desk, and picked up her phone. Susan, she said into the receiver. It's Mom. Family meeting. Tomorrow, my house, 2 o'clock. Bring Ethan and Ashley, and bring their wedding budget and housing plan. written down. There was muffled shouting on the other end. Grandma waited, unmoved. Yes, Susan. If they don't attend, I'll assume they're declining their inheritance. Goodbye. Click. I stared at her. You really just did that. Indeed. Now have a cookie. You'll need the sugar. I took one, more for self-defense than hunger. She sat again, folding her hands neatly. Rachel, you've worked hard. You've paid your debts. You've lived responsibly. Don't ever let guilt convince you to surrender what you've earned. It's not selfish to protect your peace. It's wise. Something in me cracked a little, the part that had been carrying years of unspoken guilt, the part that still wanted to keep everyone happy. Grandma, I whispered, they're going to hate this. She smiled faintly. They'll thank me later. Well, most of them. She handed me a fresh cup of tea. Be here tomorrow at 2. And don't argue. Just observe. You've already fought your battle. It's time for me to fight mine. I nodded slowly. You're sure about this? I'm old, not uncertain. And I've seen what happens when people never face the consequences of their choices. It ruins them. Ethan's a good boy underneath all that entitlement, but someone has to stop protecting him long enough for him to grow. She looked toward the window where sunlight spilled across the lace curtains. Your parents mean well, but they've forgotten that love without accountability is just fear wearing perfume. I didn't know what to say to that. When I left her house, the sky had turned a deep, bruised gray. I sat in my car, heart hammering, replaying her words. Love without accountability is just fear wearing perfume. My phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. How'd it go? I typed back, Grandma's going nuclear. He replied instantly. Good. Maybe that's what it takes. I smiled, despite the dread twisting in my stomach. Tomorrow was going to be chaos. But for the first time, I wouldn't be standing alone. As I started the car, I glanced back at Grandma's house. Solid, immovable, just like her. Something told me that after tomorrow, nothing in our family would ever be the same again. Sunday, 1:58 p.m. I pulled up to Grandma Margaret's house and instantly knew it wasn't going to be a normal family discussion. 3 cars were already parked haphazardly on the curb. My parents', Ethan's, and Ashley's. Through the bay window, I saw Grandma in her armchair like a queen on Judgment Day, that manila folder resting on her lap like a weapon. I took a deep breath. Caleb had offered to come with me, but I told him no. This wasn't a battle he could fight. This was family. When I stepped inside, the air was heavy, the kind of silence that hums right before thunder. Mom stood near the fireplace, arms crossed. Dad looked uneasy, pretending to study Grandma's book collection. Ethan sat with one ankle on his knee, trying for confidence, and failing. Ashley looked like she wanted to sink into the sofa and vanish. Good, Grandma said as the clock struck 2. You're all here. Sit. We obeyed. I called this meeting, she began, because I'm tired of hearing through Pilates instructors and bridge partners that my grandchildren have turned wedding planning into a hostage negotiation. Mom flushed. Mother, that's not... Don't interrupt. You've all talked enough. Grandma opened her folder. Now, Ethan, show me your wedding budget. Ethan blinked. We're still working on it. So you have no budget, she said dryly. Ashley, what are your contributions? Ashley hesitated. My parents are covering the dress and catering deposit. Grandma jotted a note, the pen scratching like a guillotine. Numbers, please. Ashley mumbled an amount. Grandma didn't comment, just turned another page. And your post-wedding housing plan? Ethan straightened. We thought we'd stay with Rachel for a few months, until we save up. She declined, Grandma said. What's your plan B? That's not fair. Life rarely is. Her gaze hardened. So, no plan B. He shifted. We'd figure something out. No, you wouldn't. Her tone was ice. You'd settle into Rachel's house, drag your boxes into her guest room, and by Christmas, you'd call it home. Meanwhile, Rachel would tiptoe around her own property, afraid to ask when you're leaving. Mom, this is ridiculous, Susan cut in. They're just trying to start their lives. And you've been trying to start Ethan's life for him since he was 15, Grandma snapped. When do you let him finish the job? The room went still. Grandma picked up her will and laid it flat on the coffee table. Everyone listened carefully. Ethan, if you move into Rachel's house without a lease, rent, or timeline, you forfeit 30% of your inheritance. Susan, Robert, if you enable this behavior or continue to guilt Rachel into compliance, you lose 20% of yours. Dad's jaw dropped. Mother! No debates. She looked each of them in the eye. You call it generosity. I call it enabling. It ends now. Mom's voice wavered. You're manipulating us with money. I'm teaching with consequences, Grandma said. You can't say family helps family and then weaponize guilt against the only person acting responsibly. Ethan slammed his hands on his knees. So Rachel tattles and I get punished? That's rich. She didn't tattle, Grandma said coolly. My bridge club did. That shut him up. I'm not punishing you for asking, she continued. I'm punishing you for assuming, for thinking someone else's hard work is your safety net. You want independence? Earn it. Ethan looked at Ashley, who was crying quietly. This is humiliating. Grandma leaned forward. Good. Humiliation is the seed of humility. Let it grow. Mom whispered, Mother, please, this isn't necessary. Oh, it's very necessary. Grandma turned to her. You raised one child to work and another to wait. You've mistaken love for rescue, and you're drowning both of them in the process. Dad muttered, That's harsh. Reality often is, she replied. The room was silent, except for the ticking clock. I wanted to speak, to soften it, but Grandma caught my eye and gave a tiny shake of her head. Let it stand. Finally, Ashley wiped her cheeks. Mrs. Monroe, may I say something? Grandma nodded. I didn't know Ethan planned to move in indefinitely, she said quietly. I thought it was temporary, 2 weeks at most. I told him it wasn't fair to Rachel, but I didn't push harder. Grandma's gaze softened. It's hard to challenge someone you love, but love without honesty doesn't last. Ashley nodded, tears spilling again. Ethan looked smaller somehow, like the argument had drained all his bravado. Grandma straightened the stack of papers in front of her. Here's what will happen. Ethan, you and Ashley will scale the wedding to what you can afford. You will find your own housing. You will not guilt your sister. If I hear otherwise, you'll wish you had a prenup with my will. Mom tried again. You can't talk to your grandson like this. I can, and I just did. Dad rubbed his temples. This is going to tear the family apart. Grandma leaned back, calm as ever. No, Robert, it's going to stitch it back together properly this time, with respect instead of resentment. The silence stretched again. Ethan's leg bounced. Ashley squeezed his hand. Finally he stood, eyes glassy. You all think I'm useless. No, Grandma said softly. We think you're untested. He opened his mouth, then shut it. Without another word, he walked out. Ashley murmured a thank you and followed him. Mom sat down hard, stunned. Dad just shook his head. She actually did it, he muttered. Grandma gathered her papers. Meeting adjourned. Mom looked at me. You happy now, Rachel? You've turned us all against each other. I met her eyes, voice steady. No, Mom. Grandma just turned the lights on. We were already standing in the dark. She flinched, then looked away. Grandma placed a hand on my shoulder. Go home, dear. Let them process. You've done nothing wrong. Outside, the air was crisp, the world startlingly quiet after all that noise. I stood by my car for a moment, feeling both shaky and free. My phone buzzed. A single message from Ashley. Thank you for standing your ground. I think I needed that wake-up call, too. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled fully. In the reflection of my car window, I saw Grandma inside, calmly pouring herself another cup of tea. No drama, no gloating, just a woman who'd spent her life teaching people to earn what they keep. As I drove home, I realized something simple but enormous. Sometimes love doesn't mean giving people what they want. It means refusing to let them take what they haven't earned. 3 weeks passed after the Monroe Summit. The family group chat, once a noisy carnival of guilt and emojis, went dead silent. No calls, no messages, no family dinners. Just peace. Unnerving, fragile peace. I spent the first few days expecting another ambush. A sudden knock on the door, Mom's disappointed sigh, Ethan's, "You ruined everything" speech. But none came. Instead, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, I got a text from Ashley. Hey Rachel, can we grab coffee? Just us? I'd really like to talk. Something about her tone, polite, trembling, made me say yes. We met at a small cafe near downtown. She looked different. Hair pulled back, no makeup, a plain gray hoodie instead of the pastel dresses she usually wore. I'm not here to fight, she said before even sitting down. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For what? I asked softly. For everything. For not stopping Ethan sooner, for letting my mom cross lines, for acting like your house was some kind of free Airbnb. Her hands shook around her coffee cup. I knew it was wrong, she went on, but I thought saying no would ruin things. Your grandmother's meeting. She gave a tiny laugh. It was brutal, but she was right. She usually is, I said, and we both smiled. Ashley exhaled. Ethan and I started couples therapy after that day. It's been hard. The therapist said we both come from families that confuse love with rescue. That line hit me like deja vu. Grandma's exact words. Ashley stirred her coffee. Ethan's changing. Slowly. He got a full-time position at the agency. Started saving. We've made a real budget. It's small, but it's real. I nodded, feeling something unclench in my chest. She hesitated, then added, "He knows he owes you an apology. He's just embarrassed." "Tell him I'll take it when he's ready," I said. She smiled gratefully. "We're scaling the wedding down. 50 guests. My uncle owns a restaurant. We'll hold it there. No gardens, no gazebos, no tents." "That sounds perfect," I said, and meant it. A week later, Ethan called. His voice cracked on the first word. Hey. I was a jerk," he said immediately. "A selfish one. I treated your home like a solution instead of something sacred." I said nothing. He needed to say it all. "I thought you owed me," he continued, "because Mom and Dad always make it sound like you owe the family for everything you've earned. But I get it now. You worked for that peace. I just wanted to skip the work part." For once, his words weren't defensive. They were honest. Raw. "I'm sorry," he said. "Really sorry." I closed my eyes. "Thank you, Ethan." He let out a breath I didn't know he'd been holding. "We want you to come to the wedding, as a guest, not a venue." I smiled. "I'll be there." The wedding, when it came, was nothing like the spectacle Mom had imagined. And it was perfect for that reason. 50 guests, soft string lights, the hum of quiet joy instead of drama. Ashley walked down the aisle in a simple dress, eyes glistening. Ethan looked nervous. The good kind. The kind that says I'm doing this with my eyes open. When he said his vows, he added one that made the room hold its breath. To build our life with work and partnership, not expectation or entitlement. Ashley cried. Grandma dabbed at her eyes, pretending she had dust in them. During dinner, Grandma stood to give a speech. Short, direct, unmistakably her. "True love," she said, raising her glass, "isn't built on what others give you, but what you build together. I'm proud of both of you for learning the difference." Even Mom clapped. When the music started, Ethan came over to where I was sitting. "You gonna dance, Rach?" "Not a chance." He grinned. "Good, because I can't dance either." We laughed, awkwardly at first, then easily, like siblings again. Later he pulled me aside, eyes wet. "Thank you for saying no." I blinked. "That's not what I expected to hear." "If you'd said yes," he said quietly, "I'd still be the same person, waiting for everyone to fix my life. Ashley might have left me. Grandma would have been right about me forever. You saying no forced me to wake up." It was the kind of moment that felt small on the outside, but seismic underneath. He squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry for calling you selfish. You were the only one being honest." I smiled through tears. Apology accepted. The next day, Grandma invited me to tea. Again, the good china. "I'm proud of you, Rachel," she said, sliding a thick folder across the table. "What's this?" "Updated will," she said, almost casually. "I call it the Rachel clause." I laughed. "That sounds terrifying." "Good. It should." She pointed at the page. "No one can be pressured to share or loan their inheritance to another family member. Any attempt to coerce them voids the offender's portion. And," she smirked, "there's also a down payment matching fund for grandchildren who can prove 2 years of full employment and savings discipline." I raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. The Ethan fund?" She grinned. "Exactly. When he's ready. Not when he thinks he deserves it." For the first time in months, I laughed until my chest hurt. "Boundaries make families better, dear," Grandma said, pouring more tea. "Chaos makes good television, but terrible living." When I got home, the sunset lit my backyard gold. The gazebo, once a symbol of guilt, now felt peaceful again. My house was mine, my life steady. A text buzzed. "Dinner soon? My treat. Ethan." I smiled and typed back. "Sure, but we're meeting halfway. Boundaries, remember?" He sent a laughing emoji. I turned off the porch light and whispered into the quiet yard, "This peace, I earned it." 3 months later, peace wasn't just a brief pause. It had become the new rhythm of my life. No guilt texts, no surprise visitors, no family emergencies that were really just bad planning disguised as tradition. It was strange how quiet felt both foreign and addictive. Ethan and Ashley had moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. It wasn't glamorous. Thrift store furniture, secondhand appliances, but it was theirs. He sent me pictures the day they signed the lease. A chipped kitchen counter, a crooked bookshelf, and a proud caption, "First home, 0 loans." I smiled until my cheeks ached. Thanksgiving came early that year. For the first time, Ethan and Ashley hosted. Mom looked nervous walking into their modest apartment, balancing her famous sweet potato casserole as if it were a peace offering. Dad carried a folding table. Grandma brought champagne for symbolic bubbles, she said. When Ethan opened the door, he grinned. No backyard weddings today, promise. Everyone laughed, even Mom. The evening was simple, imperfect, human. The food was warm, the laughter real. Ashley kept refilling Grandma's glass. Ethan insisted we all take leftovers. When it ended, they walked us out and waved from their porch. Their own porch. Grandma leaned on her cane and whispered to me, "Growth looks good on them." A few weeks later, Grandma's 83rd birthday gathered the family again. This time in her dining room, where sunlight hit the lace curtains just so. Halfway through dessert, she tapped her glass. "Before the cake," she said, "I have one more gift to give." She gestured to the lawyer sitting discreetly at the side table, the manila folder again. "This is the final version of my estate plan," she announced. "It includes a clause inspired by Rachel, though technically it protects all of you." Ethan winced good-naturedly. "Oh no, another clause?" "Yes," Grandma said, eyes twinkling. "The protection of peace clause. No beneficiary may guilt, pressure, or manipulate another family member regarding money, housing, or property. Any attempt will result in forfeiture of their share." Laughter rippled around the table, a mix of amusement and awe. Mom raised her glass. "To Grandma and to Rachel for teaching us all a little something about boundaries." For once, I didn't feel awkward being the center of attention. I felt proud. After dinner, Grandma called me aside. "Do you remember what I told you the day you signed the loan papers for your house? Work for what you want, or you'll never value it." She smiled. "Exactly. Boundaries are just another kind of work. The emotional kind. Harder, but worth it." She squeezed my hand. "You protected what you built, and in doing so, you helped rebuild this family. Don't ever let anyone tell you no to that kind of strength." That night, as I drove home through the quiet streets, I replayed her words. When I pulled into my driveway, the house looked almost magical. Warm light spilling from the windows, the faint hum of my heater, the soft scent of rosemary from the garden I'd planted myself. Inside, I brewed tea, sat in my study, and opened my journal. I started writing down everything I'd learned since the chaos began. Your achievements are yours. You earned them. Love doesn't mean access. Guilt fades. Peace doesn't. No is a sentence, not a sin. Sometimes saying no saves people faster than saying yes. I closed the notebook and smiled. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A photo from Ethan. A tiny white stick with 2 pink lines. "We're expecting." I laughed out loud, then texted back, "Congratulations, you'll both be great. Just remember to baby-proof your apartment, not my house." He replied with 3 laughing emojis and 1 heart. Spring came fast that year. My backyard bloomed early. Roses, lavender, everything alive again. On a Sunday afternoon, the whole family came over for a small barbecue. Ethan and Ashley brought homemade salad. Mom helped clean. Dad actually asked permission before using my grill. Grandma sat in her chair by the gazebo sipping lemonade. She looked around the yard and sighed contentedly. "It's funny," she said, "how much calmer everyone gets once they stop feeling entitled to each other's things." "Boundaries," I said, smiling. "Exactly," she nodded. "The greatest inheritance of all." That night, after everyone left, I walked through my garden as dusk turned everything violet. The lights twinkled under the gazebo. The air smelled like rain and earth and peace. My phone buzzed one last time. Grandma's message. Family helps family, but first, family must help themselves. I looked at my quiet home, the symbol of every boundary I'd fought for, and whispered, "This peace, this life, I earned it." And for once, the night didn't echo back guilt. It just stayed beautifully, mercifully still.